Your payroll project is really in place of a final exam. You will cover everything that we cover in the class that you've already been tested on in this payroll project. And it's very much like a hands-on, real type case that you would do, say if you were doing bookkeeping for a company or the accountant for a small business where you don't have payroll software. So it's actually an excellent project. So hopefully you all take the time to really do it and then kind of prove your knowledge of payroll. But as I say in the little note on the start of the payroll project, it is very time consuming, which is why a quarter of the class, so 2 weeks if we are in a summer session, 4 weeks if we are in a regular semester is set aside for this payroll project. So that really means you need to be working on it during all of those weeks that I am providing you. So there's going to be 4 submissions. So again, if this were a 16-week class, you'll have a submission each week. In the summer, the 8-week sessions, we obviously have to move quicker. So you will have 2 submissions each week. So the first submission is worth 50 points, and it really is the most important part of this project. So you want to really dedicate your time to that first submission. So it's this Excel spreadsheet. So it's right there provided for you in your Blackboard lessons, and you're going to open it up. And then you're going to see that if I go down here, there are different tabs. So you can see them down here at the bottom. They give you some just general instructions about Excel. Then the payroll register is the first tab that you need to complete. And again, very, very important. It's going to actually build every single other tab in there. So this is the one you want to dedicate a solid, maybe 6 to 8 hours to just make sure you're getting everything down right, because it is the foundation of the rest of the project. So they give you an example here. This is already filled in for you. So you've got the pay date for October 9th. You've got their employees. You've got their filing status. You're going to need this. So married filing jointly is MFJ. Single is S. There's no head of the households. So those are going to be used when you go to look up their federal income tax. So what you're going to do is you're going to be filling in all of these. So you're going to go in here and say, okay, how many hours did each one of these workers work that week, or that bi-weekly pay period. Some of them are on salary. So like, let's go down here to Ferguson. Ferguson's on salary. So they're always going to get paid their 80 hours, and it's going to be at that salary amount. Same with Ford, same with Mann, same with O'Neill. So those ones should be pretty easy because they will not change from one pay period to the next. So you really can copy them down into those next pay periods. These ones that have the hourly rate in there are the ones that you have to go and figure out how many hours did they work. Did they work 80? Do they have any overtime earnings? And again, how many hours of overtime? They'll make time and a half unless it is like a Sunday or a holiday. Again, we'll go back to the chapter 7. It'll tell you all those details. And then you'll put in the rate. But if you look in these cells, even these ones here, those are their salary amounts. If you look in these cells, these are all formula driven. So you're not going to have to change any of those. Same with this, the Social Security or the OASDI, same with the HI, the Medicare taxes. This is one, you notice these are not formula driven. These, the FIT, the federal income tax, you have to go look up. The state is formula driven, SUDA is formula driven, and the city income tax is formula driven. You will have group insurance the last paycheck of every month, union dues for just those employees who are more like hourly ones. And then you will have simple deductions in the last 3 paychecks of the year. Then if you come over here, they are going to fill in, these are formula driven as well, except for your FUTA and your SUTA. So again, you're going to want to go to chapter 7 and read to say, okay, what are my your FUTA limits are always the same. So the first 7,000 paid to the employees are going to be taxed at that 0.6% or 0.006 if you're using the decimals. The SUTA, again, go back to chapter 7 and read the details to see how much of their wages are subject to SUTA tax. And then these columns are not as important initially, but when you go to do your journal entries, you need to know those. And when you do your quarter end reports and your year end reports, you're going to need to know these. So they do come into play later. This also just helps you to do your journal entries. So who is administrative expenses, who's office salary expense, who's sales salary expense, and who's plant. So again, use this first example as how to fill in the remaining pay periods. So as you go down though, you look and say, okay, all these are blank. Well, like I said, a lot of them are the same, so you could copy those down to these future ones. So I mean, again, hopefully you kind of are familiar enough with Excel, but like, so say I wanted to copy Ferguson down, I can highlight this and say, okay, Ferguson is all salary, so I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go down and put it here in Ferguson's. Maybe you have to, sorry, let me go back. I got to enable my editing. Okay, now let me see if it's still, all right, so again, copy it. Copy that line of Ferguson's just to show you that you could do that. And then when you come down here and say, okay, well, Ferguson's on salary, so I'm going to put theirs in. You can see then once you fill those in, it populates all the ones that have formulas. So then it clues you in which ones are you going to have to fill in because they didn't populate. So again, you can do that for all of your salaried people to help kind of build it. So you then are really just going to go back to your hourly people. And then you think, okay, well, how do I do this? How am I going back and filling these in? So I'm going to go back to Blackboard and in, let's see if I got the link in here. Yep, so right here is the link. So chapter 7 is your payroll project. So you're going to open that up. And then I would highly encourage you, it's one chapter. You've got 2 to 4 weeks, depending on if this is summer or fall, to read this. I mean, and know this. I mean, I'm giving you a lot of time to do it. So read the full chapter and really kind of understand what it's doing. I get so many questions that students just haven't even done this though, and then they just immediately send me an email. So read it first, listen to my videos first, and then of course you can always ask questions after that. But then you'll go through the chapter, and again, you'll get to where they actually show you the first pay. So they're explaining everything though. So like I said, read it because it's going to help you to understand what you're doing. Okay, then here, so starting on this page here, they're giving you the employees. So you're going to need this information when you go to prepare a W-2. You need to have this information. So here it all is, gives you the employee's name, their address, their social security number, but so that again, you might not need it initially in that payroll register, but you'll need it for the W-2. Now in the payroll register though, you do need to know their wages per hour and then their group insurance, because like I said, the last pay of every month, they're going to have to pay their group insurance. So that's where you'll find that data. Then again, this is information that'll help you when you're doing your year and quarterly end reports. You need to have their address, their tax ID number. They tell you again the regular hours of work. And they tell you how they pay overtime, so time and a half for anything over 40 hours, and then double time for Sunday and holidays. And then they show you these are the months that we are dealing with, and they're going to discuss the kind of how those hourly rates are worked out. So let's keep going though to get to the first one. Okay, then this talks about your payroll taxes. So again, you're going to have to look these up. I provide a link. It's also in the appendix of this textbook, but it's hard to, if you blow it up, it's hard to read. So the link that I provide is better. They tell you the income tax, which again is formula driven. The city income tax, also formula driven. Then here's what I said to look up for your SUTA. So it's the first 10,000 of wages paid to each employee, and then it's going to be at 3.689%. Federal is normally, this is always the same, so it's 0.6% of the first 7,000. And then we've got your Medicare and then your Social Security. You'll just have to pay attention to the maximum because there's one employee, the president, who's going to go over that maximum. So you have to pay that attention when you get to the end of the year. And then they deposit their taxes. And then again, that'll go into your journal entries. Then here's the group insurance. So here in this, what's here in italics shows you exactly how to compute it. You have to go back to that table, look at how much insurance coverage they have. So for every $1,000, it's 30 cents. So then you'll take the 55,000, every 1,000, there'd be 55 of those. So 55 times 30 cents gives you $1,650. That would be his deduction on the last pay of the month. But again, there's a whole, that table of employees shows you all that stuff. Union dues are Bono and Ryan who are paying those, and those are every payday. Again, here shows you how the salaries are to be charged off when you do your journal entries. And then they do give you a lot of nice double checks. So I will go back real quick to Excel to show you that. If you pan over all the way here, you have checkpoints. So you will type in your total earnings and your net paid, and you will know if you did it correctly or not. So it's a great tool, especially if you are taking your time and doing it. The struggle is it's exact. So you could be a penny off and it's going to go, nope. You know what I mean? And it's easy in payroll because you're doing rounding. It's easy to be a penny off or a couple pennies off. So always try like plus or minus a cent or two to see if you can get it to tie out. But then my other struggle is then students become a little bit obsessed about that and then they don't move on. I mean, if you have nothing but time, feel free to be obsessed about it and get it 100% perfect and move on. But if you feel like you're pushed for time and you're going to miss that due date, you got to just keep moving through these and trying to get as accurate as you can. Again, you can always ask me questions, but you don't want those to hold you up. They're a great tool if you've got the time to use them. But if you don't get it, like say you get to this payroll and you're not getting this to work, double check your numbers and then move on. Then at the end you can see, okay, well, how much time do I have? I could go back and double check some stuff, or I could ask some questions. So again, use it as a tool, not anything to hold you back. Then here they show you the October 9th, which is already done for you. So you can read through that and then go over and look at how it goes into Excel and see, okay, I see how everything is flowing. Again, that's for you to do so you can understand as you move forward into those next time periods. And then they'll go, so then they go day by day. And then here again, they're showing you what that journal entry is for that pay period. And then the journal entry for the employer's payroll taxes. So those are all things then as you finish up, like, so we'll go back to the Excel. So October 9th is done. So if we move over into our next tab, it is your employee earnings. So then you're going to take those October 9th, well, they are doing it for you. So you're going to look through those October 9ths and see that, okay, they've now taken every line item in the payroll register and they've applied it to the individual person's payroll records. So here's Anthony Bono, what went in for their pay. And it's good to do this as you're doing it, because when you look at your payroll register, it does factor those into your formulas when you get to the last paycheck, the last pay period. Because like I said, there's going to be one employee who goes over the limit. So it's good to do one payroll, then take it over to the employee's records, then go back and do the next payroll, take that back over to the employee records. Because those two tabs are your first submission. Then your second submission is also in Excel. It is your journal entries. So then if we come over here, again, they give you October 9th as an example. So I mean, you can always copy that and paste it down, because that could be like your base format for all of your journal entries. Now again, though, as you go back to the problem, there'll be other things that happen. So like that's all that happened on that October 9th, but here on October 15th, they deposit their taxes and they deposit the city of Philadelphia. So you'll have to do a journal entry to show those deposits. Then we move on to the next payroll. So you got to go date by date and make sure that when you're doing your journal entries, you're covering them all. Then once you do all your journal entries, then you can take those over and trace each journal entry into your general ledger account. So as you look through here, this is the cash account, account number 11. So you're going to go back and trace all of those journal entries into the, like, so here, this is the cash account number 11. So then that you would find cash and you're going to credit that for the 12,436. Then the next one is the payroll cash, and you see that, okay, that comes in as a debit. So you're going to go through line by line, just like you do in financial accounting, and trace all of those in. And then that completes your first two submissions. The other thing I will say is then when you get to the end of these journal entries, again, think back to financial accounting, debits have to equal credits. That's our rule of accounting. So when you come down here to these yellow totals, they need to equal. If they don't equal, obviously your journal entries are missing something and your journal entries are off. And then again, over at the general ledger, when you trace all those in, then you can fill in your balances here, and it will also give you a nice double check.